Stuart Nash.
Thank you. Was it a hard decision? Mr. Chair, it is interesting. I do like it when national members stand up and they praise things like the Social Security Act 1938. They either don't know their history or they're truly appreciative of what the first Labor government did. What a great government that was. There's no doubt about that. Mr. Chair, this bill for me has been quite confusing. I'm just a simple man from the provinces. But what I've got here is I take a look at the bill and I read through this, and we're at committee stage, we're taking it as a whole. So I look at points that we can talk about, because we are supporting this, but every bill has its discussion points. And then I get, as Mrs. Dern alluded to, the supplementary order paper. And the supplementary order paper is longer than the bill itself. And then there's another supplementary order paper. Yeah, for the supplementary order paper. And I scratch my head and go, where do I start on this? But again, I go back to something that, at the very beginning, that Ron Mark talked about. I mean, this supplementary order paper, Mr. Chair, which is SOP number 56, talks about the Veteran Support Act 2014, which has been in place for less than 6 months, if I'm right. And in fact, the last bill we talked about amended the Veteran Support Act as well. Those poor veterans, I mean, things change hugely for these guys. And then it is, and this talks about, there's a difference here between, the wording has changed. They're omitting, or getting rid of, the term deemed to have been a resident in New Zealand and replacing it as treated under section 79.3 as being a resident and present in New Zealand. Now, as Mr. Mark alluded to, and Jacinda Ardern and I tried to figure out, we wanted to see what actually section 9.3a looked like. And we looked online, which is what you do, because this is supposed to be the most up-to-date in the 21st century, and we couldn't find it. And yet again, Mr. Chair, I don't know how MPs are supposed to do their job when we go to the source of these documents and we can't even find the piece of legislation that's been referenced. And again, I'm not too sure if this is a typing error or, in fact, the legislation itself just hasn't been updated from last time it was amended. And it's got, we deserve better than this. There's no doubt about that. But this is just, it seems a little bit sloppy to me, Mr. Chair, because this bill has been to the Select Committee, and the Select Committee went through this. There were experts who looked at this, and, MPs can't be experts in everything. And yet we end up with this level of SOP, which just, again, the cynic in me says what this does is this is a minister sneaking snuff under the radar that they didn't want discussed in Select Committee. But I'm not cynical. I think this is perhaps just, I'm bigger than that. I suspect this was just an error. They realised there was a whole lot more stuff after it had been through Select Committee process and all the sort of carry on, so they needed to put a substantial SOP in. But there are a couple of things I would like to talk about here. There's the new clause 6A. It amends an item. I'm talking about the explanatory note here. And it says, item 1 of Schedule 6A of the Principal Act to prevent the income disregards provisions in that clause from applying unintentionally to supported living payments. These are for people who are looking after patients who require care full time. And I don't know how you can apply unintentionally or how it can be applied unintentionally. And if it is applied unintentionally, and it's like these things, people who look after ill people don't earn a lot of money. In fact, they're usually on the minimum wage, and they do it for the goodness of their heart, and man, they are exploited. But the thing is what happens if they actually do end up with more money than they're supposed to? Do they have to pay it back? It is just a sort of insidious situation. That's the last thing we want, some of the most disadvantaged but well-meaning people in our society end up doing. The other thing as well is I note new clause, and this is most interesting, new clause 6B amends clause 2 part B of part 1 schedule 18 of the Principal Act to restore the pre-15th of July 2013 calculation of the rate of non-beneficiary accommodation supplement for sole parents. Now, this is, and the reason I say this is interesting is because this existed less than 2 years ago, and for some reason it was withdrawn, and now it's back. Now, I wonder if it's because the minister's been a little bit more benevolent than the previous one, and she's talked to officials and she's talked to members of the public, and she's found out that actually something that this government has done to beneficiaries was unfair, and they're restoring it. I'm not too sure why, because you can understand if it says restore something in 2007 or 2008, but to restore something that's that was taken away less than 2 years ago, that again, that either seems like Russ legislation in 2015 or Russ legislation now, but it's just very hard to actually figure it out. I'll take it.
Jan Logie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.